Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I'm here with Josh Adams and Dan Evans, and you guys, are you Godfoe or are you the creators of Godfoe?
We're the creators of the Godfoe universe.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. I was just being silly. So you guys have an active campaign on Indiegogo, but before I bring up your campaign, tell me. I assume one of you guys is the writer, one of you guys is the artist, or what?
Oh yeah, I'm the writer. Josh is the artist.
Okay, cool. So you got time. You don't need an elevator pitch. You can give me an escalator pitch. We got time.
Well, Josh, you want to take it?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
So this whole Godfoe universe thing, and when we released our first book earlier this year, it's called Apollyon 20XX. We were already saying this is the Godfoe universe, and we got a few people that kicked back and said, "Oh, it's awful, bold of you to call it a universe." Well, we actually do live up to the phrase. So at the beginning of our books, you'll see a timeline, and the Godfoe universe spans thousands of years.
Okay.
And we have titles that are in different eras along that timeline. And currently, we have a story that's at the beginning of the timeline. That's the Apollyon 20XX that came out at the beginning of the year. And then this book that's releasing now is set during what we call the Biophile era, which is in the middle of the timeline. So it's set thousands of years after the first one in the same world with the same rules, the same lore in the background and connected to the whole thing. But each of these eras kind of is its own sandbox. It's connected, but you can enjoy it on its own.
Okay.
And we've got a novel that's fully written that lands at the end of the timeline in the final era of it. And on that timeline, you'll see all these other stories that are planned. We have short films that we've been working on. We've got podcasts that we're working on. We've got a game that's like 75% done.
What kind of game? Video game or board game?
Video game.
Okay.
We're also I'm
a board game guy.
I am too. Like I'm a big video board game nut. I love Catan and games like that. And then
we got a lot to talk about then.
And Dan and I love playing like card-based games like Magic the Gathering and stuff. So we are actually we've tossed around the idea of doing something kind of a deck building type game as well, but all that to say that, like, when we call it the Godfoe universe, it is actually this really big, ambitious project that's wide spanning. But what's funding right now is called Biophile Kolga.
Okay, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, it might be good just if we could watch the trailer, and then we can jump in and kind of explain some stuff from there. But the trailer is actually a pretty good introduction to at least the tone and feel of that world and those characters.
Okay, so here's your campaign. You know what? I'll make it as big as possible.
There we go.
And then I'm going to hit the trailer.
Perfect.
You got it. Okay. How do I reduce that? Okay, there we go.
Yeah, it is.
I always got to ask: did you guys make this music? Did you guys purchase this music?
This was a free. This was free music for the background of that particular video. Dan and I do have a background in music, and there are albums that are being recorded right now that are concept albums tied into our world. But for the sake of just getting that trailer ready and out as quickly as possible. I used some
Okay, because you get nervous on YouTube with music. It really,
yeah, that was royalty free.
Yeah, because I wanted to put music on. I wanted to make a trailer, and I wanted to use a specific song, but
oh yeah, you got to be real careful with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I gave up after like 2 hours of like trying to figure out whether it was legal, not legal, and I get in trouble. You know what I mean?
yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, I can't do it. So every time I hear music, I always ask how they did it. So this is your art?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is my art. Dan and I both create the story. Like we go back and forth almost every day. We have for like 10 years, developing all of the lore and all these different storylines. And Dan sits down and actually scripts it out, and then I draw it. But like you can tell from the trailer and the images, the cover and all, Kolga has, it's a good mix of fantasy, pulp, adventure, and horror. So there are horror elements. There's definitely some creepy crawlers in the book. There's this character that she's fighting is a witch, and there's a deep lore behind the witches in our world. Okay. So I know you have associations that when you hear the word witch, you think of a certain thing, but the witches and the lore in our world is very different from a typical witch.
I'm comics not out yet too, but I'm gonna have some recognizable creatures and mythologies, but with my own spin on it too. I think that's a fun thing to your audience is going to be like, oh, witch, and then you have a whole nother, but logically consistent.
Yeah, exactly. And cool. There's a flavor of a Victorian Dickensian era in the clothing and the cities and stuff in this book, but it is not set in our past.
That was my next question.
Yeah, that's not set in the past on Earth. It is an Earth that has been through multiple Armageddon, like apocalyptic events by the time we arrive at Kolga's timeline. Okay. So, what you're seeing down here is actually our original book. We've got a tier in our on our Indiegogo campaign that lets you catch up. So we have our first graphic novel, which is almost like 178 pages, I think, black and white. That's Apollyon 20XX. We're doing that book, which again, that's 178 pages, I think. Kolga is 100 pages. We're giving you all of that for $35 if you do that tier. Nice. But this Apollyon, the black and white book, that's set at the beginning of the timeline. And that's the story of how our world that you and I live in, this version of Earth, that story is ultimately how this world ends. And then Kolga is set in the world that rises out of all of that chaos. Okay. So, yeah, go ahead.
$15. There's a 100-page book for $15 right here. I'm looking at this.
Yep, 100-page book, $15. That is, it's manga size, so it's like a digest size. It's smaller. That was one of the ways we were able to get the cost down, but it's a full color book, 100 pages, and it's done. It's finished right now. Like we don't ever go to campaign until our books are finished. Oh, wow. So as soon as this campaign ends, and I think we got like 19 or 20 days left, something like that. As soon as this campaign ends, this goes to the printer, and our turnaround should be like, unless there's something unforeseen with the printers. Our first book, 2 weeks, Dan? We had it in people's hands.
I think it was 10 days. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's no wait with our books. Like when we put them out for people to buy, they're done. Like there's no wait. We'll get this book out to people as quickly and as affordably as possible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I tried. I was about 85% done when I launched mine.
Nice.
I had the luxury. I have a different job. I'm a construction worker, so I understand if you're not going to make a whole book and then gamble on getting paid for a year. I understand that. Mm-hmm. So I assume you guys have full-time other jobs rather than comic book people.
Dan does. Yeah, I was for 17 years. I was a classroom teacher. I taught elementary art for 17 years, and I guess a little over a year ago, I got to the end of that school year, and I'm a Christian. Dan and I are both believers. And in my personal life, I had reached a point where I knew God was saying I was done in the classroom, at least in that capacity. And I knew that I wanted to do this. And Dan and I had already been working on the first book, but it was so hard to carve out time to work on it. So at the end of that school year, I put in my resignation. And that whole summer, but after that, I finished Apollyon 20XX and then immediately started on Colga. And now I am an associate pastor at our church, and I do teach Bible classes as an elective, but it's not full time. I'm done by 2:15.
Okay.
So I spend 3 or 4 hours every day, pretty much, at least, just drawing.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So I just wanted to ask you, because I'm big on names. The name Apollyon. What is it? Apollyon
20XX.
What is the name? What is Apollyon? I know it's a Greek word, but I don't want to.
So
I think I know what it means.
The origin of Apollyon as a name, ancient times, Apollyon is a name associated with like a demon. Yeah. But in kind of Christian and Judeo-Christian mythology side of things. But for our purposes, we brought that more from Pilgrim's Progress, which is a very, very old allegory about the Christian life. And Apollyon was a demon creature that the main character had to fight. And he's described as kind of a dragon type creature, but he has a big mouth in his stomach that's breathing fire. It's that idea of like an appetite that's never satisfied.
Okay.
And in that world, in Apollyon 20XX, which is in our near futures, is how it's set. The powerful elite in our world that control the governments, that are behind all the things in the world, they have this insatiable appetite. They're very much hedonistic people. They don't have any appetite that they deny themselves, and their goal is to create what is essentially a man-made god using AI and using a metal that's called imperimetal. That's something they've discovered that actually allows you to control the thoughts and intentions of other people.
Oh, wow. And
so in Apollyon, what's happened is they've successfully created a machine that they call God. It's an AI, but it has to have a human host. And so they've been experimenting on people, grafting this imperimetal into their bodies in different ways, and using that to try to find somebody that can bond with the machine and complete this project. And once they get it working, then they can use that God machine to essentially put any thought that they want into your mind, and you'll think it's your thoughts. Okay. Because for decades, even centuries, behind the scenes, they've been introducing small trace amounts of that material, that imperimetal, into our food, into our medicine, into our water supply, into everything. So everybody has it. Thanks, Dale. Awesome.
Thank you, Dale.
We appreciate that, bud.
That is nice. That's a good feeling.
Thank you, Dale.
We appreciate you, man.
Somebody backs it, yeah.
But yeah, the idea is that everybody in society already has so much of that stuff in their system, and they don't even know it. And if they broadcast their intentions through that machine, everybody just automatically thinks, "Oh, that's my idea. I'm doing exactly what I want to do." When what you're really doing is serving what we call the order. And our main characters in Apollyon are characters who are we call them augments. They've been experimented on by the order. They've escaped, and now they're trying to stop the order from ultimately achieving its goal of creating this god that they're trying to make.
Okay.
And so throughout the rest of our universe, the reason it's called the GodfoeUniverse is throughout all these eras after the creation of this being that the world calls God, anyone who stands in opposition to that and says, "I don't believe this thing is God, and I don't answer to it, and I don't bow to it," you're labeled a Godfoe. And our characters throughout these different eras are all people who in some way or another are God foes. They're set against that ruling entity that the world thinks is God but isn't.
Okay. That it sounds like a high concept sci-fi with like
and that's really what Apollyon 20XX is. Very dystopian sci-fi. We kind of describe it as Akira meets Claremont's X-Men, because we do have a team of young, super powered, augmented characters, but it does have more of a dystopian sci-fi feel. Kolga, by the time we get to Kolga's world and era, the things that have resulted from all of this, by the time it gets to Kolga's era, they just think it's magic. They don't know where it came from. They don't understand it because it's thousands of years removed from its origin.
So Apollyon, what is that? That's like the our time right now. And then
Apollyon is like our near future. It's 20XX because it's somewhere in the year 2000.
Oh, duh.
Something.
Yeah. That's now it's obvious. Okay.
It's 2000 something. Yeah. That our world as we know it ends, and everything else coming after it begins.
I love it when something obvious hits me, and I'm like, oh, okay.
And Biofile Kolga takes place several thousand years later, but with everything we do, we call them eras, like the Apollyon 20XX era, which will have all these different stories, the Biofile era, which is where Biofile Kolga is. You can enjoy those eras and those stories all individually without reading the other stuff, but it helps if you want to have a greater.
I think that's smart.
Arch. So you can read Biofile Kolga and be fine, the entire series, and you can read all our other stuff, but you'll see where like the narrative arches over, but you don't have to do that. We just want people to be able to jump in wherever they want.
That is super smart. You know what I mean? Like,
I saw a comment that this sounds like something Marvel would have done 20 years ago, but would never do now. Yeah, Logic's finest. You're right. Like there was a time when Marvel would do big things, and now everything has got to be tied to a movie. It's got to be tied to a Disney Plus project or so, and it's always got to be crossover stuff, and then it's retconning, redoing, rebooting, retcon, reboot. Dan and I spent 10 years planning out all of this timeline, all of the lore, making sure everything fits and makes sense before we ever started page 1 of one of these books, so that we never are going to have to come back and reboot it or retcon it or fix it. Like we built the world first, and then we have started actually creating this stuff, which means for the consumer, for the customer, that means that this stuff is already planned out. We know exactly where Kolga ends. We know exactly where Apollyon ends. These volumes are already, if not written fully, they are at least completely I don't know how to describe. I guess just like we have them laid out, mapped out exactly where all these different volumes go. So the stories are already there. We've got decades worth of story already planned and written. And the pace that we're aiming for is that we release a volume of Apollyon every December or January, winter, and Kolga's going to come out every fall.
Okay.
And I'm already working on volume 2 of Apollyon right now. I've got the first chapter of Apollyon volume 2 already drawn and finished.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. This sounds. I got to ask this because this sounds like you said you were working on this world for years. To me, this sounds, and because I'm a big role player, this sounds like a role playing game, turned into a book. Is this? Am I? Anything? I
have a lot of appreciation for RPGs. So I don't have the time for D&D and things like that
anymore.
But what we're Logic's finest, we appreciate that, man. That's what we aim for. We want to write something that you don't read it once and then sit it on your shelf. We want something that you're going to want to go back and read again and again. And it's also the type of thing that when you get to Kolga Volume 4, you'll go back and read Volume 1, and you're going to see things that we laid the seeds for in Volume 1 that you'll realize, man, they already had it planned way back here because they were already dropping hints at that. I had a blast filling volume 1 with little details in the background that later on are going to pay off in huge ways. But yeah, to go back to what I was saying, our approach to all of this stuff is to make something that outlives itself.
Yep.
Something that is bigger than just a single simple story that can be told in 22 pages. We want to consistently be putting out stuff that like rivals Dune, or that because we're so inspired by that stuff. So you bring up RPGs. I never have done like Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but I'm
reminds me of like Warhammer.
Warhammer.
He plays Warhammer.
I knew one of you guys had to be involved with Warhammer.
Yeah, he does.
So which one of you guys is you're the poor one then?
We're both poor. I'm too poor to have Warhammer, and he is poor because of Warhammer.
I finally caught up on my bills. I do not need Warhammer to the savings I made.
I read a lot of the Warhammer books.
Me too.
So I've got like 5 or 6 of the big omnibuses of Warhammer stuff. So I do love the lore behind Warhammer and how interconnected. Like I have a lot of the Horus Heresy books, and so there's definitely an element of that. And honestly, this would make a good RPG type set.
That was a compliment. It sounds like a setting.
Yeah, it could easily be at some point. And again, that's something we're trying to create at some point. We also, we have a website, www.GodfoeUniverse.com, and that's our hub of everything.
Put it in the private chat, and I'll put it in the public chat.
All right, Dan, if you don't mind dropping it in there. So our short films are there. We've got this stuff that's called the Revelations and Lamentations, which is like this huge volume of, and it's just free on the website of it. Just this esoteric, poetic, in-world stuff it's cryptic and fun and different. But like we miss the days when you could find a web page that was just cool and you could fall down that rabbit hole for weeks. Yeah. We're trying to create something that's cool like that. And our plan is, and it may be 10 years down the road before this can happen, but once all of this is established well and we've built a platform and we've got a community built around it, we're going to create a pathway on our hub that's a clearly defined criteria for each of these eras, that as long as you fit and obey the criteria that we lay out, we're going to start canonizing fan fiction. So our fans that want to contribute to this world, they can play in those sandboxes, and as long as they obey the criteria we set out, you may create a character that shows up in one of our books. Like we're gonna treat fan fiction as canon within that pathway.
That sounds like Lovecraft and Howard and August Duluth. They all shared monsters and settings, and
they shared their world, and that's what we want. It's been such a long time since anybody's created something that's this ambitious and large. And when I tell you that, like, it's not just a few comics that are planned out. Like when you see our timeline, we have whole eras. There's a timeline or a era called the Time of the Great Kings that is very much in the vein of a Conan the Barbarian type fantasy, Game of Thrones era type fantasy, and the artwork for that's going to lean a lot more into a Frank Frazetta type of style, and that's a story that's planned out too. It's just a matter of right now I can only draw so much at one time.
You're drawing everything.
Yeah, but eventually I'd love to bring other artists on board. Yeah. We have so many different spin-off series planned, and it's not just like an idea stretched out on a napkin. Like we have whole story arcs planned out that are just waiting for the day when we can get into.
Mm-hmm. We've got a novel that's already written. That's going to be about 4 or 5 novels when it's done, but that one's ready to go. We might release it later this year, early next year.
Yeah, we've already been through like 3 or 4 edits on the novel, and that's set at the end of our timeline. And each of the eras is radically different from the others, but they all fit together so well because the connective tissue between the world is so well planned out that everything logically leads to the next thing in a really cool way. It's been so much fun just finally getting to have people see the stuff that he and I have been living with for years now.
So I take it you guys have been friends for a long time.
Oh yeah.
So now, is this like something that you guys came up with in college? Was this,
For Dan, it started that way. I'm older than Dan. I'm 40. I'll be 41 in a few weeks, so I'm a little older than Dan.
Well, when you're as old as me, everybody's a youngin'. So
there you go. Dan, you want to kind of take point on that?
Sure. The idea came about. I was in a band. It broke up as bands do, and then I started another one.
It's almost bizarre to see a band last.
Yeah.
I've never in a band. I have no musical talent, but watching my buddies fight over the stupidest thing, the bands will last.
It's hard to keep together.
Yeah.
So I started a new one, and we wanted to do something bigger concept. We were writing like 9-10 minute songs. So I started thinking of stuff, and at the time I was reading apocalyptic literature, watching a lot of apocalyptic anime and movies and stuff like that. And I started thinking about this pattern, that is described in Revelation and Daniel and Ezekiel of all throughout human history, a person, a man, or a group sets themselves up as God. And, that pattern happens over and over and over. If you want to call it Caesarism, if you want to call it, great men of history, it seems like an inevitable cycle of human history. So I was like, well, let's run with that. Let's take that and branch with that and see how that could actually happen. And so came up with the idea of Imperial metal, this alien metal that lands on Earth that could be controlled and could control people. And, then I poured in all my favorite conspiracy theories, and then the world started looking like it does now. So it started just giving me stuff.
What is it? I got conspiracy theories in my comic. It just seems like if you're making a comic book, conspiracy theories are just good seeds for stories.
Yeah, it's good fodder because we're living those now.
Yeah, it's like the difference between the conspiracy theory and the news now is what, 6 months? Like,
hey, K-pop is here. Good to see you, K-pop.
Hey!
Oh, thank you so much, K-pop. She had us on Sunday. That was an absolute blast.
Yeah, and Logic, when you gonna come on? Logic has such great comments. I think we'd have such a great conversations.
Sure.
History call that the strongman. He comes along at the right. Yeah, the strongman. Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, Torchbearer is here. Torchbearer.
Hey, Torchbearer.
Another guy.
What's up, man?
Camera ready, Torchbearer.
Back the books.
Hope you all have a blessed day. It's not if Zach Town doesn't come in to bless us, then I get nervous.
Well, to everybody new here, we've got 2 books being about 300 pages for $35. We're running a Biophile Kolga, our book now. It's 100 pages full color for $15, or the catch-up tier, 300 pages, 2 different books for $35.
Yeah, so, like K-pop says, get some hot bundle action.
Oh yeah, K-pop hooked us up a lot Sunday. Thank you so much.
Well, we're gonna be throwing some goodies in there for people who back as well. Like there's gonna be some fun stuff in there that we're not charging you for. We're just throwing it in the box for you.
Yeah, I'm weak too. I saw Sticker Mule ran like a special, so I guess I'm getting stickers. So everybody backs my book. You're getting stickers. You didn't know it, but you're getting stickers. It's fun.
Yeah, Dan and I, he mentioned, band to band. I was in a band at the same time that he was, and we played a lot of the same.
What instrument do you guys play?
What's that?
I'm a guitarist and singer.
I play guitar and bass, and I sing.
Yeah.
So we were around each other a lot, and we started building up a friendship. And when he started his band Blue Bolt, which had a lot more of that anime influence, and he's like, I got this character named Blue Bolt, and he's like, I've been writing this little story that goes behind it. And I started drawing the character for him for merch and stuff. And then eventually we start passing these ideas about story back and forth and realize, man, we got something here. And over the next several years, our friendship has grown, but that story has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And, somebody, I think it was Logic, mentioned, the Dune books and how, the movies have not remotely captured it. One of the things that you'll love, if you love Dune, what up, Mighty Bot Studio? one of the things you'll like about our novel when you read it is that, Dune had this wonderful way of taking things that were ethereal and very like interior monologues and all this very esoteric religion and philosophy and merging them all together with science fiction and spending time in somebody's head.
Yeah.
And that's something that the movies David Lynch tried to do that, and he had all these long monologues that didn't transfer very well to film. But like, if you like that part of Dune, that's weird, spiritual, just strange sci-fi stuff, you'll really like the novels when they come out.
Dune is very introspective.
Yeah, and that's really where the novels allow us to play in that. There's some of that in Kolga.
Kolga has a monologue. Kolga always has a monologue. Yeah,
Kolga is very different from Apollyon in that it's every page pretty much has a running monologue from Kolga's perspective, from her journals, basically. And sometimes what she's saying and what you're seeing, you realize that she's not always honest.
Yeah.
The God Emperor was awesome. I think my favorite is still probably Children of Dune, but God Emperor was a really good one. All of the original Herbert books I love. I don't like any of the ones that have come with his son, but like the original series, I've got all of them in hardback in here somewhere, and not first editions, unfortunately, but I do have all of the original books.
Yeah, that Zach Dan is asking the question I was going to ask. You say Kolga is not always telling the truth. Is she a liar, or is she just a flawed human that doesn't have all the information?
Dan, I'll let you answer that question.
A little bit of both. She's writing to the reader, but it's kind of like she's writing her memoirs and they happen to align with what's happening in the story. So she's not necessarily commenting on what's happening. She is unreliable in that sense. It's not a direct one-to-one, but it's not an intentional. I'm not trying to do a J.J. Abrams, mystery box. Yeah, anything like that. So yeah, I would say what's funny, it sounds so pretentious. I would say initially she is an unreliable narrator, and then the more you get to know her and the more you see her in the book, it turns out her writing was probably way more accurate than her own dialogue was.
She's not so much as an unreliable narrator as just a dirty liar.
No, she has a tendency to only reveal the things she wants you to know.
Yeah. And
that's something that plays against her. That's a flaw in her character, and we expose that. Yeah. To give y'all an idea for people just kind of tuning in that this is the first time you've heard of Kolga. Kolga, at the beginning of Volume 1, she was a very old woman. She was, 80-something, almost 90 years old.
Yeah. She
has been fighting a war against this power and really multiple power bases that exploit the people in this corrupt system. She's been fighting it her whole life. All of her father figures are people who were involved in what's called the Biophile Initiative, who have been trying desperately to leave our planet and get beyond all of this stuff that they can't control. She goes into what she expects to be her final mission. She expects to die, and instead of dying, she gets given a new young body again.
Yep.
And she's this angry, old, bitter heretic that thought her life was going to end, and now she's got a new life, and she just wants to burn everything to the ground. So she's angry. She's being forced to deal with things from the past that she thought she had tucked away, both literally and figuratively. And she's having to deal with stuff that she thought she could leave behind. And that makes for some very interesting conversations between her and a character named June, who is her young ward, who, she kind of planned on leaving everything to her and she didn't think she'd come back from this, and so that's
Remember
where
all
we
that
find her at
stuff
the
that I
beginning.
gave you? Can I have it back? I didn't.
It's
I
just,
didn't need it.
it's an interesting dynamic between her and June. She's not her mother, but there's something very delicate about female tension that we had a lot of fun with. Sometimes it's a sister vibe, sometimes it's a mother-daughter vibe, but sometimes there's love, there's genuine love between them, but then there's also, this person isn't telling me the truth, or they isn't telling me all of the truth, and not everything that this person's choosing is working out well for me, and that I think we did a good job, or that Dan did a good job. I don't want to take credit for the writing, but Dan did a good job writing a character who is noble and does have some very strong, capabilities, but is also very flawed and does not make perfect decisions. And
that's important. That's like a rookie mistake to make a perfect character.
Yeah.
It's the flaw. Anybody can make up a perfect character, but it's interesting flaws that make a character. I don't know why, but the more you talk about this, I kind of remember. I think about the Dresden Files. Do you read that? Jim Butcher's Harry Dresden?
It does have a little bit. It has a little bit of an urban fantasy flair like that, but it's still, it's definitely not.
Kane.
Yeah, I would say more of the Solomon Kane vibe.
I never read Solomon Kane.
It's more like that, I think, than it is something like Dresden Files. Just because
the reason why I brought up Dresden, because he's an unreliable narrator, but
he very much so is.
Like what I like about it, because he's a good guy. He's trying to do, but sometimes he gets caught up in his own bullshit, for lack of a better term, and then and then refuses to, So I like that. So when you said she was an unreliable narrator, that's exactly where I went, and I like that.
Yeah, she's a fun character. Kolga is of course the main character. One of the things that we've sent out, a few people have gotten a review copy of this.
K-pop
was one of them. We so appreciate you reading it and having us on her show. But one of the things that I love about the response from people who have read it is like they're on the fence of like, is Kolga, like, is she a Mary Sue or not? Because she does have a lot of capability. She is wealthy. She is powerful. She does have a lot of ability. But
so is she Josh's insert or is she Dan's insert?
Well, neither one of us have abilities. Neither one of us are successful or rich. But you find out that she has lived such a long life, and in some ways, and I don't want to give away anything from the story, but she's actually lived in multiple lives. And if she were not competent by this time, it wouldn't make sense. Like there's a reason she's so competent.
This day and age, I think we've been conditioned to look at every female character as a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Whether she is or not, it's irrelevant. She can fight.
Everything about Kolga, everything she has earned.
And many people do not like her.
Yeah, she's not loved.
Yeah,
she is not beloved in her world.
She is far from perfect. She's a stubborn old woman.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know it, but the reason I'm goofing on this is because in issue 2 of my comic Heroic Tales, I'm introducing a character named Mary Sue.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That's clever.
Yeah, her name is Mary S.U. She's a third generation Chinese immigrant who becomes perfect. And her flaws are the fact that she's perfect. So will it work? I don't know. I've had Pizza Medi begging me not to release this character.
but I it's funny. You mentioned that people begging you not to release the character. My favorite character in the whole book is a character named Stu. And Dan has a bandmate who, when we told him, look, we got a character named Stu who is a talking eyeball that lives inside of a lantern, he said that is the dumbest thing he had ever heard and that we should not put it in there. And like consistently, Stu is everybody's favorite character. Yeah. And he's hilarious. He's hilarious right up until he gets scary. Like
Yeah.
he's
He's kind of an eldritch horror with like a 5-year-old's mentality.
You kind of back to Dresden. It kind of makes me think of Bob.
the skull. Yeah.
Yeah.
To answer Logic's question, I have
Logic has a question. I want to make sure I read it.
asking whether we had read the Expanse books. I have the entire series right here in hardback, and I have the Blu-rays right there. So yeah, very much so.
I got it. I have friends that tell me I would love the Expanse.
It's really good, man. It's probably the best written sci-fi since like something like Ender's Game. Like it is really good.
To get to your character Stu, you like my character Mary Sue. I had a couple of friends like that's the stupidest idea in the world, and a couple of friends like, wow, I kind of like, but I believe in the character. Well,
so we just ignored him. We just decided to prove him wrong.
I try not to ignore anybody, especially somebody.
We ignore people that are wrong.
But I believe in the character, and you believe in Stu. So like you don't want to say you're wrong, but it's more.
I don't mind saying you're wrong.
Hold on, you'll see, you'll get it. And to answer what Zachtan's saying, it's kind of like D&D in the sense the character's ability should reflect their experience.
Absolutely.
But what I was going to say is like in D&D, I would introduce a character that I didn't think was cool, and then my friends like, oh, that's a great character, and next thing you know, that character develops because of the way the other characters reacted to it. Do you have any characters like that were like a one-off, or something that you didn't think was going to be important, but then who was I just talking to, and they said, no, the character wrote themselves. Geez, this is good. Oh, J.M. DeMatteis. He was saying, like, I didn't mean for that. I just introduced this character. Next thing you know, this character told me the story, and it became a bigger deal.
Well, it's funny. Initially, Kolga was not a main character at all.
Oh, well, there you go.
Kolga herself was very much, in fact, she was originally a boy that was just the son of one of our other characters. And as that era of the Biophile Initiative, as we started developing that story, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and we realized, well, this is big as the other thing. Like, that was the first time we realized we need multiple eras to be able to do this. All of a sudden, Kolga grew into a completely different character.
Yep. So there you go. You exactly what I'm talking about. You a character basically commanded its own evolution.
Yeah, greatly.
Beware the goofy ones.
Goofy ones are dangerous.
The biggest takeaway was proto-molecule fused into a human body. Oh, this is in the Expanse. I didn't read the Expanse. I got to read it. People tell me there's mental powers. My friend was telling me I'd like the Expanse because it's low tech. It's the most realistic sci-fi.
It's definitely it's a hard sci-fi in a lot of ways. Like they deal with space travel. Like they talk about, like if you're going to go at certain speeds, they have these little crash couches that are like gel couches, and they have to take medicines to differ their bodies so that the pressure wouldn't crush them when they're in flight and stuff. So it does think about a lot of stuff that other sci-fi just kind of magics away.
Yeah.
The proto-molecule is like an alien thing that that's an alien weapon that kind of rearranges your DNA.
I don't know. I got it. I should check it out.
It's really good. If you like sci-fi, you'd love The Expanse.
The last sci-fi series I read was Old Man's War. Have you read
Old Man's John Scalzi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really it's like 5 books, and each book is like a comic book. You can read them really quick.
Yeah, those are quick. I would say Expanse is maybe it's a little bit more like a little bit more highbrow, I guess, than that, but not by much. It's really good. Old Man
War's tongue in cheek. There's some
in it. There's some funny moments in The Expanse, but it's a little more serious. But it's really good. It's really good sci-fi.
Yeah,
it takes you back to the days of like Rama and stuff. Like
it's like the solar system, right?
It's very Earth based. Earth, Mars. It's a believable idea of like if we did expand into space. Everybody, once we got there, everybody would want to claim it. And so, like, there's Cold War between Earth and Mars and the belt, which is like you got all these people that work out in the belt mining ice basically for everybody else. And, they have a union essentially. And it's a believable play of how power struggle would happen if we all, honestly, it feels closer to something like Babylon 5 to me than some of the other things that have been mentioned. But
so you said before that these books are not Earth. So like, is it like a,
no, they are Earth. It is Earth.
An alternate Earth. They're
just not in our past. It's set in our future. So it's our Earth, but it's our Earth having gone through multiple.
Okay, so it's Earth that diverged to 20XX. So you're not going to get so.
Yeah, so Apollyon 20XX is going to get incredibly apocalyptic by the end of it, by the final volume. That series will end our world as we know it and set up the world that Kolga and all these other stories take place in.
Okay, cool.
It's kind of like you're getting Knights of the Old Republic, the original trilogy, and the High Republic, and all of those eras releasing at the same time.
Okay, all right, yeah. So different. Or to make it comic books, you got Superboy, and then they go into the future for the Legion of Superheroes. Yeah, although that's not apocalyptic. That's kind of happy sci-fi. So, is there magic, like spellcasters, or is this purely sci-fi?
There are things that in Apollyon, it's entirely technologically based.
Yeah.
In Biophile's era, there are things that they call magic.
Yeah, that's actually super advanced technology that it's integrated so much with reality that it appears to be magic.
Okay.
And for all intents and purposes.
Asimov said that science so advanced it appears as magic.
Was that Asimov who
said that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's an element that goes, there's a very tribal element to a lot of the way that the magic system in our world is integrated. It's really interesting, and it's one of those things we don't want to info dump and
right. That's
but
the worst. I know when my friends tell me about the D&D campaigns, I listen at them, I just sit there stare at them.
It's a balancing act, and for every person that says, oh, well, this book just dumps you right in and doesn't explain everything at the beginning, you're lost at the beginning. For everyone that says that, there's 10 others that say, oh, well, that's too much exposition. You should just show and not tell. We've tried to find a balance to where, we explain stuff in this book, but we don't stop and just let people talk about things, because that's not how people interact. There's a very organic way of revealing these mysteries.
Oh, cool.
And, some of it you get in volume 1, some of it you're not going to find out what that stuff means yet. Eventually, we're going to explore all that stuff. We know what it means, and we'll eventually, in an organic way, explain those things. But we don't want to just have our characters stop and stare at us out of a panel and just have like 10 pages of explanation.
You said you have a novel written, but it's not released yet?
No, we're still kind of tossing around how we want to roll that one out.
Are both of you writing this novel? Because,
Dan wrote the novel. He and I, everything we do, we go back and forth a lot on. So I had input on the novel.
Yeah,
but it's that one's pretty entirely Dan's baby. But like we just kind of share the steering wheel on all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Now the important question that I got to ask you is, why is Spider-Man hanging out with R2-D2 over there on your shelf?
Why not?
You cross the universe, that's like crossing the streams and Ghostbusters.
That's actually C-3PO dressed up as Spider-Man.
There you go.
Well, and I've got
C-3PO costume.
I got X-Men on the wall. I got Deku and Evangelion units on this other side. I just have, and I have a Western poster.
On my desk over here, I've got Red Hulk standing on an Ayn Rand book. So,
are you a fan of Ayn Rand? Ayn Rand, however you say it. Every time I say it,
Yeah.
somebody corrects me.
I loved Anthem by her. I've got a few more. I really like the Romantic Manifesto. I don't 100% agree with her, but I think she's one of the greater philosophers of the last century, for what that's worth. So yeah, I at least enjoy her writing. I know some people complain about it, but I mean, if you do anything, people will complain about it.
Right. I think that Anne Bryant is one of the biggest. I'm trying to say this correctly. I think people like to attack her, but they attack a straw man version of her. They don't really understand what she's saying. I went through a mini Ayn Rand phase in college. My roommate was into her. He lent me all her books. I read Anthem and Atlas Shrugged, and that was the beginning of the end. But I like a lot of the things she says, and I think a lot of it people misrepresent and then attack the misrepresent based on what other people said. Because let's face it, everybody who has an opinion about Ayn Rand, I think 1% of them actually read anything that this woman actually wrote.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way with most people in opinions.
True. So when I got into Ditko, I really got into Ayn Rand. He is, tried to live his life objectivistly, and I have to wonder was he was so into it. I have to wonder was he did he have mental problems, or is that the way an objective is supposed to be? I don't know. I can't answer that question. But anyway, Ayn Rand is one of those topics that I could talk about for an hour and a half.
Well, Ditko made all the characters that made Alan Moore famous.
Right.
Fair
and then
enough.
Alan Moore got upset when the characters that were supposed to be the bad guy, like Rorschach, became the hero of the book, because he's the only one who had any principles. He's the one, like it or not, he's the one that was logically consistent and tried to actually, remain true to his virtue. At Torchbearer Studio, I think everyone has an Ayn Rand period in college when you discover how. I agree. I think more people should, to be honest. I don't think enough people have an Ayn Rand period. This is Josh using my old band account. Okay. That's you. Okay, I got confused.
I would promote at least Anthem by Ayn Rand for young people today, because, like I said, I don't agree 100% with especially the ending the Prometheus kind of idea. I could go into that, probably just because I'm a Christian, but her admiring of the human spirit and the idea of a great man, not necessarily a strong man, but like a dictator, but a great man. And especially for young men today, they don't get that. They don't get a spirit of adventure and a pat on the back to say, go do great things. Yeah. So I would recommend any young man read Anthem.
Did you get the comic of Anthem?
I didn't know there was one.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a comic version. So, like it's Ayn Rand makes these big roach crushing books.
Yeah.
So it's a big roach crusher book put into like a 60-page graphic novel. But I think they do a good job of encapsulating it. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a book. There's a couple of books that I think every kid who's in college should read. 1984, Animal Farm, Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
I would even say Clockwork Orange, Anthem, and the short story. Why by Kurt Vonnegut? Why can't I think of the name of the shorts? Harrison Bergeron. I read Harrison Bergeron in like 6th grade, and I think I read it again in 8th grade, and then I read it.
Yeah.
And now that story is memory hold, and Harrison Bergeron is right now the real world. And nobody knows what I'm talking. I feel like I'm in an episode of Black Mirror where I'm the only person with the memory of that story.
Well, the entire genre that we understand as dystopia came from people witnessing communism. Literally.
Yeah, exactly. Like Orwell, that's Orwell's 1984 all over.
Yep.
And we are experiencing thought police now. Like we're experiencing all of the stuff that those guys were trying to warn us about.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember. Brave New World was the other one.
Brave New World. Yep.
I remember, college, my beer drinking, pot smoking, philosophical days, talking to my buddies, arguing, the world is never going to become the world is never going to become Brave New World. Nobody wants to be oppressed. The world is going to become 1984. That's the only thing that makes sense. Logically, it's going to. And now I stand corrected. I wish I could go back and find Randy, my old college roommate, and tell him you are absolutely right. We are begging for our oppression. We are begging to be oppressed. We are actively yelling
and I forgot who said it. But it was a writing that said the people will cry out, "Make us your slaves, but feed us."
Yeah.
And Logic's. I think Huxley was one of the first. I think Zenyatten was what may have been before him. He wrote the novel We, W-E.
Oh yeah,
I never even heard of it. What is that?
I think he came out of the Soviet Union. It's about a collective society where no one has a name and they all have numbers. It's very much where Rand got Anthem from.
I prefer that sounds like Anthem.
Yeah, I prefer Anthem, but I mean, both of them lived under the Soviet Union, so of course they came to the same conclusion.
Wow,
that was terrible.
What's the name of the author again? I got to look this up.
I think it's called Zenyatten. Let me look it up.
Cool,
make sure I'm saying it right.
That's just what I need. Another novel.
Man, I'm Soviets created some really awesome sci-fi though. Like I don't know if anybody ever
adversary, man.
Yeah, it's Yevgeny Zamyatin. I'll put it right here in the chat.
Has anybody read a book called Roadside Picnic?
No, I've never heard of it.
That's another like 70s Russian sci-fi. I think they made a movie out of it called Stalker, but the book was called Roadside Picnic. That's another really, really great Soviet contribution to, apocalyptic sci-fi.
Yeah, look at right now. Okay, and when I say right now, I'm talking about plus from 10 years or so. Right now. What are the great novels that are coming out? What are the great comics? I assume you guys are comic book fans. You got a big X-Men poster over there. You were just picking up toys. So if I could say, like, if I could just, okay, we're going to nerd out. We're going to talk about comic books.
Yep.
Boom, I guarantee you guys could just list 5 of your favorite stories, 5 of this stuff that you like. And I guarantee you that they're 20 years old.
Yeah.
The vast majority of them are, I would say, of recent things that that are more modern books that I do really love. I love a book called Tokyo Ghost.
Okay, that's pretty recent.
Tokyo Ghost is one of the best books I've ever read, hands down. And that story and art, fantastic book. I really enjoyed 7 to Eternity, which was also a Rick Remender book and had fantastic art. It was a really good fantasy story. I've liked most of what Daniel Warren Johnson does. So, like, I really liked Wonder Woman, Dead Earth. I really liked his series. It was 2 volumes of a series called Extremity that I loved. And he's currently doing Transformers.
Okay, people are raving about Transformers right now.
It's actually good.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did he do Murder Falcon? Am I thinking?
Yeah.
Okay,
he did. That was kind of one of his first ones.
Yeah.
So
he's one of the up and comers that people are talking about now.
You'll notice that all of those are indie books, though.
That Transformers was excellent. So yeah. So I
can't tell you the only thing. I haven't enjoyed a Marvel book in ages. The only thing I'd say that I liked the first year or so of Immortal Hulk. That was fun. It's not my favorite thing ever, but it was enjoyable. The only thing that I've enjoyed from DC in a long time has been the White Knight stuff that they've done on the Black Label.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed 3 Jokers for what it was, mostly because I love Fabok as an artist.
Yeah, he's a good artist. I love Jeff Johns. I'm getting all of his books. Why can't I think of it? Ghost Machine books.
Yeah, I have, out of all that Ghost Machine stuff, I have adored Rook Exodus.
It's funny. I was just saying yesterday that Rook Exodus to me seems like 2 concepts forced together. Like, I love the whole that they go to this planet, that this corporation bioengineered and whatever terraformed this planet, and then ran out of money. So everybody's got to leave. That is a great concept. Then the wardens who wear the animal helmets is a completely it's like two great tastes that go great together.
It works really well, and of course, and Fabok's art, you can tell he has just gone wild on this book. Like, this is something he is clearly a passion project, and it's been phenomenal. But yeah, there's
Did you read Junkyard Joe?
I didn't care for it.
Oh my God,
Didn't care for it.
That was like the first time I cried reading a comic book in a long time.
What a whip!
with Junkyard Joe, he's a robot, goes into the battle, and then like 20 years later, he meets up with one of his guys that he served in Vietnam, and there's an explosion, and the robot freaks out. Oh my God,
that didn't do it for me.
Oh, there's something about
you cry when you watch Wall-E too, right?
I went to go see Wall-E right from work. I met my wife at the movie theater, and I paid $35 to take a nap. You know, I saw the opening credits. I saw the closing credits. That's all I know about Wall-E, was that there were credits. You know, but my wife and I learned, don't go see a movie right after work, because I you know. But anyway, but Junkyard Joe, I don't know, man. You have no heart, man.
I don't.
It's something about an old soldier. I know he's a robot, but like, I saw some of my dad's friends, you know, with as we used to say, shell shock.
He's like, my dad's friend had a robot leg.
You know what I mean? I just something about like old soldiers, like, you know, comforted each other. It just that's my weakness.
Dude, Dan, Logic's finest is like your spirit animal, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 100% right, dude. We've said that over and over again, that the Image guys were these really, really talented artists. They can't write their way out of a paper bag, or they couldn't in the 90s.
I know. I harp on this too much, and
God, those guys couldn't write. They still can't write. Tom McFarlane still can't write a story to save his life.
Nah, King Spawn was trash, man. Like,
yes, I have a soft spot for what I call the Pinocchio characters. You know, the characters that lost their humanity or never had their humanity, but become more human all because of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't think of it, but you're right. But Junkyard Joe is a Pinocchio, and the fact that he has this Iron Giant like face, you know, and he doesn't talk, but somehow he emotes. I don't know. It's a character that I think requires a lot of work from the reader, and I'm a big fan of Jeff Johns, so I've been trying to message him to get him on my channel for a long time. To Static, you know, no I can't say that he's been dismissive or anything. I just into the void, into a polygon.
Hey, you keep on trying. Keep on trying.
Yeah.
I tell you what, we got a pretty awesome set of people hanging out with us tonight.
Yeah, we got 48 people. In case you have no idea, there's 48 people watching right now.
Well, go back the book. It's the best deal in indie comics.
Yeah, I was about to ask John, do you mind playing the trailer for us again, since we got some people who weren't here earlier?
For those, yeah, because when I played the trailer, there was only 5 people. So there you go.
Thank you.
I'm going to make this big, and I will play the trailer one more time. There you go.
Thanks, John. And yeah, for those that aren't aware, like, the book is finished. It's completely done. It's for 100 pages for $15. And if you want to catch up with our first graphic novel, which is 178 something pages.
I was just about to ask you, can I get your old book and your new book? And I'm staring right at it.
Yeah, we have a catch-up tier that lets you get both books for $35, and we have $5 flat shipping.
That's like 200 pages, right?
300.
Yeah, it's closer to 300. It's 178 pages in the first
Plus
book and
100.
100 in the new one. So
And
you're
then
getting a lot of content for $35.
$15 for a 100-page book,
Mhm.
you know, and you got a digital tier, which,
Oh
know,
yeah.
with these modern kids in your digital and your video games,
Well, I get it. Like, it is cheaper, and I understand. Like, not everybody has room or has money for physical media anymore. I'm obsessive about physical media
Me too.
just because
I'm buying up anime and DVDs. And
I buy
anything I can
everything.
find.
It's just because I don't want things to disappear and then I never get to find them again, or the version that I have to deal with is some censored version.
Edited version. Yeah.
My wife gets DVDs of movies that she likes.
That's me.
And I get books, novels. It's a bit. I thought I was the only person in the world that does this, but I buy old dictionaries. I have a stack.
Oh
of old
yeah.
dictionaries, and I like to see which year did the definitions change. And
that's really interesting, man. Words and meaning is that's a whole other topic that's worth exploring at some point. But
that's one of my things. That's where I'm harshest with comics. So when you criticize my comic, I at least hope that you can say, well, at least the words were chosen properly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I want to address some of these comments. We got Logic's Finest. I was rereading the Fantastic Four Rebirth. I liked the concept of Rebirth where they tied everything into Galactus and the Heralds and everything like that.
Yeah.
But that was the best of the Rebirths. But Jim Lee can't ride a speeding ticket. I don't think
a speeding ticket.
I think he's such a beloved artist that like Jack Nicholson is so. Like, if Jack Nicholson's in the movie, are you going to correct Jack Nicholson? Are you going to ask him to do another take? Like, I think Jim Lee is at that point where it's like, oh, Jim Lee's doing it. We're just taking it. We're not going to criticize it because we don't want to offend him or whatever. I think he's above criticism at this point. Because I thought the new 52 unnecessary lines. They imagified DC. DC is the first. You shouldn't let the other companies influence the DC.
Well, they did the same thing with Marvel when they did the Heroes Reborn stuff.
Yeah,
it was the same. It was the same crap.
Yep.
Yeah, I loved McFarlane art. Yeah, I do love McFarlane's art, and I have to say, McFarlane is successful enough that he can hire any writer that he wants. So I won't say anything bad about Liefeld because I was one of the worst people. I was mean to life, like not to purpose, but in the comic book stores, he's a sucks. But the guy is just nice. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, he is nice.
Online presence. He's very positive. So I still don't like his art. I can't stand Deadpool. I hate Cable. What does Cable mean? It's just a terrible name for a superhero. Wire, Cable.
Yeah, I mean, he's a nice enough guy. I guess I never met him. I don't really care. When it comes to his product, Rob Liefeld is an absolute joke. And I've got, you'll see people that try to defend him, and like he can't draw anatomy to save his life.
Yeah,
I don't know how that dude has a career. I swear I don't know how he has a career.
I don't like his writing.
His output.
Yeah. Logic's fine to agree. I'm new to comic, prepared of a lot of help. Haven't read both. Okay. Autocorrect. Chris Claremont is writing Titan. For which company? Because
he is a comic writing Titan.
Oh, he is. I read it wrong. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I prefer it complex over simple, straightforward. So, yeah, I agree. We tried to lean into. Okay, I keep forgetting that this is you speaking.
Yeah, sorry.
Jim Lee is not above. Absolutely, nobody's above criticism. Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm going to catch hell for saying it, but I'm not a big fan of his art either. Like, I liked his art in the X-Men when he did X-Men #1, but like, I don't know what it was, but it was like, I think he had like, he wasn't big enough that he didn't have a boss tell him, you got to work. Now I think like Hush was good, but I think he cared about that. He poured everything into that. But like, when I saw the DC 52, I'm like, this is just like AI. Give me Jim Lee designs. You know,
Yeah, it was pretty heartless. It was very soulless art for him, which I mean, I know everybody has bills to pay, so like I get it, but I miss the days. I miss the days when comics didn't all look the same.
Yep.
And like you had artists that had individual style, and maybe it wasn't your favorite thing, but like that you could look at an artist and say, I recognize like Kelly Jones.
oh
You
yeah,
know you're looking at Kelly Jones. Sam Keith.
Oh, I love Sam Keith.
Like the style is so unique, and it's not perfect, but that's why it's good. Like it looks like somebody actually drew it and had their own vision for how something should look. Todd McFarlane's the same way. He's lost some of that, I think. Like I don't think anything he's doing now even holds a candle to what he did back with when he was working on Spider-Man or those early Spawns. But like you don't see style in comics hardly at all anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very small number of artists that genuinely create something that has a personal style now.
And in their defense, the big two won't let them.
Oh yeah,
I was
100%.
to say that how many artists or writers are on a comic for more than 6 issues?
Yep.
You know, it's almost like they're afraid of letting superstars arise.
Yeah, what Geeks Do Network, dude. Sam Keith, I loved all the stuff he did with Marvel when he did like Marvel Presents Wolverine and stuff. Like him, anytime he had his version of Wolverine fighting Cyber was always like a good time.
Yeah.
But dude, the Max
Yeah.
was the
great.
first book that I read that showed me comics could be more than what I thought they could be. Like the Max was so surreal and so strange and so out of the pocket. And like he'd go from inked, like traditional comic to this gritty stuff. And then he'd have watercolored pages in this fantasy world. And like
you have to work to understand it.
Yep.
yeah, the Max was one of the first books that really broke out of the mold and made me think, okay, comics can be anything.
Yeah. The Max felt like you were experiencing like 4D chess or something. It felt like you were piecing a puzzle together as you were reading it.
That was
Yeah, I
one
mean,
of
it
the
was a
first
literal
comics
fever dream.
I had.
Yeah.
Like I it was up to issue 10, and they referenced something, and I'm like, did I miss an issue? And then I had to go, and I realized you couldn't just casually read. Like
Yep.
Max,
No, you can't just halfway pay attention to
Yeah,
his
I had
stuff.
to turn off the music and reread Max. You know,
The Max is what Neil Gaiman thought Sandman was.
Amen.
I loved Sandman.
I did too. I loved it too.
Maybe
but
a
I
year
think
ago when I talked to Neil Gaiman on Twitter, and now I
yeah.
still love the Sandman. I'm not going to take anything away.
What
I
Geeks
wonder what
Do
Chuck
Network
did.
says they had a Max Julie Winter tattoo.
Oh wow.
Julie Winter was
does she have
she
the
was
arm
thick,
hair?
boy.
Yeah, she was
She was
a
thick.
drawn comic book woman without the perfect body, but she was still sexy.
Yeah.
Jim Lee is a good artist. Absolutely. He doesn't strike me like Kirby, John Byrne. Jim Lee is technically proficient, but he's not soul sterling. Excellent.
His
Very succinct. This is what I was trying to say, but Logic Finest sharpened
Yeah.
my comment. And
Yeah, I'd 100% agree with that.
Jim Lee's
he really
character.
is. He is an amazing technical artist, but like
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I see Captain America punching some random Hydra thug drawn by Jack Kirby, I get more
Yeah.
emotion out of that panel than Jim Lee. And I know somebody's going to cut this out of context and say I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's fine.
Jim Lee's greatest strength was character design.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He gave us the iconic, I think, gold and blue X-Men team. And a really good 90s Batman design. I agree with you. I think maybe his panel to panel could be better, but I think his character design was unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
I think once he became the boss, like
Yep.
Yeah, he's an incredibly skilled draftsman. I agree. He's very very talented. He doesn't.
One of the best cover artists.
Yeah, he's an incredible
Ever.
cover artist.
Yeah.
He's a good designer. He's a very good designer. But no, I agree. There's some of these guys that from the 90s, like what's the guy? Max Texuria.
Oh, what's up,
I don't know how
Master
to say his
Slag?
name. But he used to do Ghost Rider stuff in the 90s, and he had that really splattery, gritty style. And like, I miss stuff that just looks like something that you haven't seen before.
Yeah. Something that grabs you by the throat.
Yeah, and see, that's why, you know, we can run with that for a minute. I believe that's 100% why manga is so drastically outselling American comics.
Yep.
Is because manga artists and just manga in general is way more out of the box and wild and willing to go to extremes with art in ways that the stuff that we're getting now, it like there's nothing cookie cutter about.
There's not a
manga.
hint. There's not a hint of irony in manga.
Yeah,
it's all sincere.
I can't argue with that. I don't know manga, so I can't argue the finer points of manga. But from what I do know, it just seems like it's you know, there's a nation of 100 million manga fans, and they're all eagerly waiting for the next thing, and it's true competition. So I think what gets to us has to be the best of the best. You know, like these manga, what do they call mangakatas? I don't even know, but these manga houses, from what I hear, they're ruthless. You don't hit the sales, you're done. You're done.
Oh yeah, they don't play around. But like, you know, I was in Tokyo last year, and I went to one of like the biggest, like this massive store, anime and manga store in Ikebukuro, and I expected. I guess for some reason I thought because it's so big over here that over there it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Man, that store was packed. Like the line to check out was winding around every aisle of the store. And it was all Japanese people. Dude, they read manga on the trains. They read it at work. It's huge there. It's way bigger there than anything comics related are here.
I forget the name of the title, but I heard that one installment of one particular manga sold more than all the American.
Probably Demon Slayer.
Demon Slayer, yeah.
Was it
Demon Slayer outperformed all American comics by itself, just that one title.
And I have to laugh about like these communist kids. Like, look at pure capitalism in Japan is producing great art, and all of these communist kids, college kids that talk around, they're all into manga.
Yeah.
And now look at America, the American direct market. You got Marvel that's being floated as a tax write-off by Disney, if you ask me. And they're just making such bad comics. Like, which is closer to communism? The bad Marvel, and which is pure capitalism? Awesome manga. So I need to get into manga, but I'm afraid to get down that rabbit hole. But at least it's cheap. They republish everything. They don't have that collectability. So if I want to get into Demon Slayer, I could pick up the first volume for $12.99.
Yeah, and Logic Finest, you know, you said manga writing is what, you know, Marvel was 25, 30 years ago. You're 100% correct. And that's, you know, Dan and I love comic books. We really do love comics, although I honestly started pulling out around the time that stuff like we've talked a lot about the Onslaught and the
Onslaught
Age of Apocalypse and that kind of stuff.
I liked Age of Apocalypse. It just wasn't a great written story, but I liked it.
It was a cool idea, but not a good execution.
Onslaught was not good at all.
We kind of dropped out, and it was indie stuff that brought us back into comics.
Yep.
But we're much more influenced in what we're doing with Kolga and Apollyon. The books that we're releasing are much more influenced by anime and manga than they are by American comics. If anything, we look at American comics as they are now and say, this is an example of what not to do.
Yeah. I mean, my two favorite comics, just probably as an idea, is the first is Grendel. I love anything Matt Wagner does. Or Wagner, however you say it. I call him Wagner.
I'm a big fan of Grendel.
I love everything that guy has ever done, and I'll put it off. I'll think, I don't really feel like investing in it, and then I buy like an omnibus or something. I'm like, first page, I'm like, I forgot how good of a writer he was. I loved Cerebus. It gets a little.
I'm in the middle of. I think I'm up to Cerebus 78 right now.
Yeah, Cerebus is great. I know in some parts it gets a little it drags on a little bit past issue 200, and he writes these long essays.
Church and
Yeah.
State is killing me. I like the
Yeah.
first 20 issues when he was a barbarian running around fighting everybody.
But you can't deny the art. This the art of Severus. Oh, it's amazing.
Absolutely, the art is outstanding.
You know, of course, Sin City, you've got that stuff. But the thing is, American comics were so great at one time that they inspired manga. That's what people forget. That's where Astro Boy came from. It was art like Superman and Mickey Mouse and stuff, you know, and everything else. It shouldn't be. I don't. Part of me, I love manga, I love anime, but I also have that American pride in me to be like, hey guys, like especially indie comics, like manga is your competition. Go do better than it. You know, go. It's in you too. Don't give up. You know, go defy your odds. Go reach down and gird your loins and make something good.
Yeah, like I said this a few times. I got 55 nieces and nephews, and I'd say like 3/4 of them read manga. 0% of them read comics.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I think about like my approach to art and particularly like layout and trying not to have just this, here's 4 panels and here's 4 panels and here's 4 panels. Like I look back and the only things that I think of that stand out to me in that way from American comics and stuff, like when Barry Windsor Smith did Weapon X, that visually, that book, I'd never seen anything like it. To this day, like it's still incredibly powerful, and it's so out of the box of what was the style of comic book sequential storytelling. And then I love Kingdom Come, but Alex Ross did the same thing. Like you look at Kingdom Come or Marvels, and it's crazy out of the box. Torchbearer, you're gonna love this. Let me find it. I'm gonna step away for like
he's
2
working
seconds.
on his own comic right now called The Thug.
Thug. Give me a second. I gotta find something.
Das Thug. Oh yeah, Battle Angel Alita. That's a good one.
Torchbearer sent me a fan art of the Patriarch. I got to get that colored. Put that in.
Oh, good job, man. Nice.
So, Torchbearer, you said Battle Angel Alita was your manga that got you into manga. So when I was in Tokyo, the only manga that I brought home was the collector's editions of volumes 1 and 2 of Battle Angel of Gun M.
Oh, and Logic's Finest Josh has the 30th anniversary box set of Akira, like the manga.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
I love the movie, but good Lord, the scale and just the sprawl of the Akira story in the manga form, huge impact on Apollyon 20XX. Like if you like Akira, Apollyon 20XX is our Akira.
I remember getting the VHS, and the early dub was terrible. It made me not want to watch it, and I don't know what it was, but it came out on DVD, and I don't know how I got it. I didn't buy it again, but I ended up getting a DVD, and the dub was so good.
Yeah, the new dub was so much better. Like the first time I saw the movie Akira, I recorded it off of on a VHS off of Sci-Fi Channel back when it was still actually the Sci-Fi Channel. They used to do Japanimation on Saturdays.
Yeah, that's how old I am. I remember manga and anime was called Japanimation back when I was a kid.
Yeah, it was always like
I think 8 Man.
Yep, 8 Man. I remember I like Akira, Vampire Hunter D, the Guyver, some of those early those were some of the
suffered from. It was like the Voltron system. Voltron would pull out the sword and solve the problem. Guyver was just like, okay, we're gonna fight, and then he opened up what I call the booby blaster.
Yeah.
And takes out everything. It was like
titty lasers.
Yeah. But the art was great.
Oh yeah.
The first anime that I watched, because I have a coworker, and he was just so mad that I never watched anime. He made me He made me watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Oh, I love that show.
He made
That's
sure
a
it
good
was
one.
Brotherhood.
Yeah.
That's a heartbreaker. That one did make me cry. I did cry when in that show.
Yeah, I think I know exactly what it was too. That was awesome.
Yeah.
To the point where I bought an Alchemist. What do you call it? Pocket watch.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But I like that. But that was awesome. I would come home from work, watch like 2 or 3 episodes a day, and he was getting mad because I wouldn't binge watch it. And I'm like, I don't binge. If I binge watch stuff, I don't remember it.
Huh.
But if I watch like 1 or 2 episodes, think about it, next
Yeah.
day watch it. But if I watch 14 episodes in one day,
I
barely remember Breaking Bad because I binge watched it.
I'm doing that with Witch Hunter Robin right now. I'll watch like an
that's
episode
a
a
good
night.
series too.
My favorite thing, and this is what Josh and I really bonded over. My main thing that I geek out over is Neon Genesis Evangelion. If I see any paraphernalia from that show, I get it. I went and saw the End of Evangelion movie that just got released in theaters for the first time in America this year. One of the greatest experiences of my life. Like literally, that's my favorite piece of art ever is the movie End of Evangelion.
He covets my Unit 1 that I brought back from Tokyo.
Logic again just shows that we would have a great talk if he ever comes on my channel. Space Battleship Yamato got me into manga. That was on every day after school.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
battle.
It was on like 3 o'clock.
Battle of the Planets.
Yeah, Battle of the
And I had
Planets.
to run home to catch it.
Yep.
Because like if I just moseyed on or goofed around, I'd miss it. So it was like the first cartoon. So a lot of times I missed it. And I got to say, I like the physics, the wave motion gun, the way it traveled and everything. It became really important in my role-playing games when, we played a superhero role-playing game. I can't go live without talking about my role-playing games.
Go for it.
And then, of course, when you're superheroes, sooner or later, you have space empires. And this dominated by rules of how to travel, space travel, which, of course, will be in my comic. And it's the germ is Battle of the Planets.
Nice.
And what's Battle of the Planets was Gatchaman, and yes,
yeah, I was thinking that was backwards.
Yeah, so I'm saying it wrong. Battle of the Planets was which one was Spacecraft Yamato, Battleship Yamato. That's the one with the wave motion gun. Battle of the Planets was Gatchaman. That was okay. I didn't particularly go crazy for that one, but Battle of the Planets when they fought what's his name? Deathlock and all those guys. That was awesome.
Well, even American shows like Thundercats, I'm pretty sure that wasn't that done by a Japanese studio.
I know
like
that
the animation
I was too old for Thundercats. Although
I know that the opening, a lot of those shows, the opening themes were animated by Japanese animated companies, but then like the actual show took a dive.
Oh, dude,
Voltron was my jam, bro.
Yeah. Silverhawks. Dude.
Yeah, Silverhawks was
another
sick.
one that I missed. Yeah, I was too old. I think I got 10 years on you guys. So things like Ninja Turtles, I was too old for. He-Man, Battle of the Planets, Transformers, even G.I. Joe. My G.I. Joes were 12 inches and had fuzzy heads.
Star Blazers. God, I could not remember that to save my life. That was killing me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Who said Star Blazers? Who said Star Blazers? But thank you. Yeah, that was John.
Logic's Finest did again because Logic's Finest just dropping heat in the chat, man.
Yeah, he's correcting me. It was channel 5, not channel 11. Yes.
Madness Comic Network. Shout out, man. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, dude. Madness. I enjoyed that show immensely. That was a lot of fun.
Gatchaman was Battle of the Planets. It's Star Blazers.
And the remake, they did a remake recently of the Battleship Yamato that was really good. And yeah, I agree with Admiral Wackass over there. Cowboy Bebop is one of my all-time favorites. I love the music, I love the action, I love all of everything about that series.
I gotta watch Cowboy Bebop because that is the greatest opening music.
It's a fun show. It's not very serialized. Like there are parts of it that there is an overall story, but like it's very kind of episodic for most of the series, but it's really fun and the animation is gorgeous.
Yeah. I as embarrassing this is to admit, but like what got me to accept my foreman's challenge of watching Full Metal Jacket Brotherhood was I really liked Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but I
it's a good story.
Oh, it was awesome.
It's got great characters.
Yeah. I even liked the Korra,
Yeah, Korra was good.
Korra
I like the setting of Korra a lot. Like I liked it had a little bit of a steampunk kind of vibe to it. I like that.
Korra had flaws, but I really liked it. The first season of Korra. I liked that the bad guys were SJWs.
Yeah.
And then I liked how they went into the myths of and mythology and how all the the spirit world created all that stuff. And then she became a lesbian. But other than that, it was
yeah, but like the thing is, all right. So I do have to address this. Attack on Titan. People love that show. I have tried like 5 times to watch that show, and I can't get past the giant, like, retarded, naked babies, like enemies. Like, they look so dumb.
I don't know. The premise doesn't look like something that I would enjoy spending time watching.
I couldn't get into it.
It's just so dumb. Like, I understand why people like it, but, like, the design of the Titans, like, at least in that first season, they're just big, naked people drooling or no. I can't. I cannot get in that show. And it's so nihilistic. Like, it's so just depressing and cynical.
Nihilism is a young man's game.
I just can't get into that series. I tried. I cannot get into it.
Like, that's why I don't want to watch The Boys. I
don't care about it.
I made a mistake.
I'm just not that cynical yet, I guess.
I'm a big fan of Garth Ennis. I really liked Preacher. And
yeah,
so I bought The
Preacher
Boys,
was smart.
But I didn't read it until I think I had like 50 issues. Like, believe it or not, I got back issues of comics piling up. But I bought The Boys out of loyalty and then I was like, you know what? I got to read this. It's ending. It's ending soon, so I got to read it. It's gonna get spoiled. And then I read it. And I'm like, I bought 65 issues of The Boys, and I hate this. And then people like, oh, John, you watching The Boys on TV? I'm like, no, I hated the comic. I'm not gonna. Garth Ennis made a comic book about how much he hates superheroes. I don't want to,
Torchbearer, thanks for hanging out,
he's
man.
out, Torchbearer. Thanks for coming.
Oh, he's leaving? Okay. Yeah, I gotta go too. My wife is cooking dinner.
All right.
So,
Thanks for having us.
Anything that I didn't bring up that you want to talk about before we go?
No, I just want to double down on asking everybody to support the book. Like, if it sounds like something you're interested in, if you like any of the stuff we've been talking about, you're going to love our book, because like that's the stuff that informs everything we create. So like, please go back to the campaign while it's up. You're getting more for your buck than anybody's going to give you.
Yeah. If it's 100 pages full color for $15, or you can do the catch up tier and get our first book and this book, almost 300 pages for $35, $5 flat shipping for whatever you order.
There you go. Yep. All right. Thanks a lot. This is a lot of fun. We didn't even get to talk board games, but thanks a lot.
We'll do that next time.
Yeah, we'll do that next time. Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.
Peace out, man.
Bye-bye, everybody.